we can have a recording of this. So my name is Sean Neil-Barron, and I am the program manager for FAITHIFY. If you are wondering who is behind the scenes of FAITHIFY 98% of the time, that would be me. There is only 1.5 people that work on FAITHIFY, and we don't even do it full time. So we are at your service. That is where we are. I'm hearing a little bit of...
Excuse me, this is Carol Walker. I hear somebody's...
Yeah, I'm hearing some background noise as well. So if you are in a space in which there's some background noise, you can hit mute. And that will probably help. All right. So I would love to know a little bit about where some of you are from. So if you want to unmute and just give us a little bit of background on where you're coming from and why you're interested in FAITHIFY, that would be great.
I'll start. This is Mindy Charlin. I'm right down the street from you in Newton, Massachusetts. I'm joining the call because the First Unitarian Society in Newton's choir was invited to go to Germany to sing in 2017 with the European and German Unitarian Universalists at their annual meeting. And so I'm a member of the choir, and our director, Ann Watson-Bourne, who you might know, Sean, she asked me to sit in to educate ourselves because we have about at least 20 to 40 people in our choir, and we're going to be inviting other choir members from around Eastern Massachusetts to join us. So we have to learn about fundraising.
Totally. Well, so good to have you with us. Sounds like
Thank you.
Trip.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go next. I am Carol Larson, Bismarck, North Dakota, a congregation of close to 70 with a quarter-time minister. And the board asked me to join this. We have secured a UUA regional grant, but we need to match it.
Yep. Well, we're a great platform to do some of that matching. Great to have you with us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll take 2 more people introducing themselves, and then at the end of the webinar, we'll be able to hear more about some of the projects that you're all having, and then talk more specifically. So 2 more folks just to give us a sense of who's here.
Can I go next? This is Gloria Borland, and I'm calling from Honolulu, Hawaii. And Carol in Maryland suggested I join this. And I'm in the process of finishing a documentary film that is historical, and it's about President Obama, but it also includes how he was raised Unitarian.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Cool.
So it's and filmmaking is expensive. So, all right. Thank you.
Lovely. All right. One more person.
This is Bill Fox from Mount Vernon Unitarian in Alexandria, Virginia. I'm actually on as a stewardship consultant. I'm one of the 4 stewardship consultants that supports the UUA. We've always been big fans of FAITHIFY, and I just want to see if there's more we can learn and more information we can share as we do our work.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. All right, as I said, I'd love to hear more about what projects you guys might have in the pike, as they say, at the end of the call. So what is this webinar about? Basically, this webinar is an introduction to FAITHIFY. We're going to go through what FAITHIFY is, what it isn't, and we're going to talk about what it means to put a project on it and the process for that. We'll have a little bit of time to ask your questions at the end, but if you have questions related to what I'm saying, please unmute yourself and ask me, or type it into the chat. Either one of them I'll try to respond to. Yep, that's what we're going to do, and then I'm going to point you to a few resources that we have to help you as you think about launching your campaign. So let's dive right in. I'm going to share my screen so you can see some of these slides. All right, does everyone see some slides? Yeah, maybe? Okay, I see some nodding.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. So, crowdfunding has sort of fundamentally changed how we fundraise. And the way I think about this is the difference between the large donations that are being given to political action campaigns from certain politicians versus the kind of grassroots campaigns that the Sanders campaign and the Obama campaign have kind of been known by. Crowdfunding leverages our ability to get donations from a large group of people in our networks and facilitate that transaction online with an expediency that we haven't seen before and a potential reach that we haven't seen before. So crowdfunding has really been in vogue a big digital trend since about 2005 with the launch of Kickstarter. Kickstarter was the first crowdfunding website. And since 2009, you'll see that the pledges on Kickstarter, so the money that people are pledging to different projects, has risen from about $2.5 million to, in 2014, about $560 million. So there's a whole new crowdfunding industry that's being developed where people prototype their ideas and use crowdfunding as a launch strategy to gain kind of market penetration, as they say. But let's take a step back and think about what crowdfunding is. I mean, at its essence, crowdfunding is a really simple process. People like you have ideas. You share those ideas with other people, or what we call the crowd, and the crowd gives you money to help your ideas come to life. It's that simple, but of course, it's much more complex than that. And we're going to get a little bit into that complexity as we go through the process. I mean, the first misnomer that I want to allay about crowdfunding is that there is no magical UU crowd waiting to give you millions of dollars because you have a good idea. Sadly, those people do not exist. I wish they did. We thought they might when we started FAITHIFY, but what we've learned is that people who create crowdfunding sites, they are going to only receive money from people within their networks and their networks that have made a compelling pitch and have made it easy for people to donate. So when you share your ideas, I think that's one of the things that I stress is that is one of the most essential parts of a crowdfunding campaign, which is getting the word out to your networks and making a compelling argument about why they should part with their money and spend the 10 minutes or 20 minutes that it would be to make the donation. Crowdfunding comes at a time in which our lives are becoming more digital and more networked. As we are able to connect across distance through the internet, crowdfunding allows us that place, that technical platform to be able to share our ideas and to see if they have traction. But successful crowdfunding thus needs to leverage those digital networks for impact. So what are we trying to do at FAITHIFY? We're trying to do three things. We're trying to inspire Unitarian Universalists. This isn't all about money. One of the questions we got asked all the time is, why do we need a UU crowdfunding website? People can go to Indiegogo. People can go to, Crowdfund, Crowdrise. All of these sites would accept UU projects. But we wanted all of them in one place because we think it's pretty inspiring to see what people are doing with their faith in the world and to be able to access so many of those different stories in one place. And so we think there's an inspiration quality that FAITHIFY brings. The second is that it allows us to spread UU values in the world through that kind of sharing function. It's, I think, really powerful when a FAITHIFY campaign gets launched and I see it all over my social networks from different people. It shows that there's a coalition of people behind it. And there's so many stories that we have of people seeing a project on FAITHIFY and maybe not donating per se, but getting in touch with the author and lending their support. And so I think there's a real uniting factor that FAITHIFY brings. And the last one is that fund aspect. We want to be able to fund impressive ministries that are going on, impressive projects. We want to be a part of people's ability to basically make their dreams come into a reality. A lot of people can have good ideas, but bringing them into fruition is a whole nother thing. And so we provide that sort of platform. So since our launch about a year and a half ago, we've seen over $470,000 pledged on the site, which we think is pretty cool. We're almost at that $500,000 mark. I think we'll make it before GA, especially if some of your projects are on there. 124 projects have been posted on the site, and 75% of their projects have met their success, have met their goal and have been successful. Compared to other crowdfunding sites, they usually range at about 43% success, or even down to 23%. So we have a really strong success rate, and I think that's because we are people who believe in interdependence. And that us showing up for each other and in being involved and committing to each other's projects, I think is why we see such a success. And the average pledge is about $99, which sometimes throws me off. People are really willing to part with some of their money if they really believe in a project. So when we think about FAITHIFY, a lot of questions we get asked is who can use it? And FAITHIFY is open to individual UUs doing work in the world. It's open to congregations doing work, UU organizations, interfaith partners who are working with UU organizations, be it churches or individuals. All of those people have access to FAITHIFY, and I'll get into our criteria for who can be on the site in a little bit. But I want to stop there, stop sharing my screen, and see if you have any questions about crowdfunding itself. You can either type them in the chat or unmute yourself and ask me.
This is Steve from Bismarck, North Dakota. You said
Hey,
you're recording this program. Is this going to be available that we could download and have our board look at? That sort of thing.
Yes, it will be recorded, and you'll get a link tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right. Betty asks, can non-religious groups working with a UU group participate? Yes. And we'll get a little bit deeper into that criteria, and you'll be able to assess more. But if there is a connection to Unitarian Universalism, you can totally use FAITHIFY as a platform. Deborah has a question, but will you make these slides available to participants? Yes, we'll send you those slides. Andrew asks, who manages screens applicants, pays for the back end, and pays for your staff team, i.e. who owns this? It's a great question. So initially, FAITHIFY was developed by the Massachusetts Bay District as a gift to Unitarian Universalism. And so it was developed with some funds that we had and with the UU funding program. So that paid for the development of this site. And my staff time is paid for by the New England region. So we're technically a ministry of the Unitarian Universalist Association. But we're still figuring out how that works because our regions are coming into the fold more deeply. So it's a little bit emergent, but we're pretty solidly within the Unitarian Universalist Association's fold. And I am the one doing all the screening until we hire our next person. It's me. All right. I think there was another question. Tony is asking if I sent out the slides from the last one. I didn't send it to everyone because I was just going to send the ebook that we've developed to everyone, which is probably going to go out next week. All right, so I'm going to take you on a little tour of what FAITHIFY looks like. Sharing my screen. So when you go to faithify.org, all right, is everyone seeing that slide that I ended on? Great. I have two monitors, so I never know what's showing. And Keynote doesn't like that. All right, so you go to faithify.org, you're going to come to a homepage which looks like this. And when you scroll down, you're going to see a collection of projects. So each of the projects has a featured image that the project owner chooses. They have a short description, which we're starting to limit more and more in terms of how many characters. It should be around 50 characters. And then you see this little thermometer. And the thermometer is telling you what % is funded. So each crowdfunding project picks a goal, and that's how much money they want to raise. And so that's showing you how much they've raised in a percentage, how much they've raised in a dollar amount, and how many days are left in the crowdfunding campaign. And so important things to what that tells us is firstly that these are time-limited campaigns. So on Faithify, you get to pick between 15 days, 30 days, 45 days, or 60 days. You don't get to keep this on there for as long as you want. And you might be saying, ugh, but wouldn't it be more likely if I succeeded? Like, wouldn't I want more time? And the answer is no. So I cracked some numbers and I looked at success rates from 15 days to 60 days, and they were roughly the same success rates. Those who were around 30 days, on average, were able to raise just as much as those who are around 60 days. Really, the question in terms of the length of time is how much time will you need to activate your networks? Are they people that you need to develop? Are they people that are ready to go and you've already been prepping them in 15 days? Creates a sense of urgency for everyone to get to the site to make a donation. So it depends on where you are, but it is time limited, and we think that's actually good for everyone because it keeps our site current, and it also forces you not to have this really long fundraising period for this project, but rather kind of contain it in a set period of time. So when you click on a project on our site, you're going to be brought to the project page. And so this is the top of the project page. So you see there's a featured image. A little bit higher than this, not captured in the screenshot, is the title. And the two boxes here show you, again, the thermometer. It also shows you how many funders have been making donations, how many followers, but that's not something we do anymore, so we've taken that off the site, and how many days left. And there's also this really important sharing toolbar at the bottom there. I did a little bit of analysis, and successful projects on average have about 300 shares on social media. Unsuccessful projects usually range between 5 and 10. And so it's not that if you get 300 shares on social media, you're going to be successful. But what that tells me is that if you are asking your networks to be a part of your project and asking them to donate consistently, you're more likely to succeed. Which just makes sense from a fundraising perspective. If you don't actually ask people for money, they're probably not going to give it to you. Not many people are checking faithify.org every day, unlike me, basically not all the time. So below this kind of main section, there'll be a block of text. This is where you get to make your pitch. This is a rich media text box so you can input pictures and videos and different headings. We suggest you look at some resources or look at other campaigns that you thought did it well. But this is where you're making your point of like, why should people donate? What's the impact going to be? And what's in it for them in terms of being a part of your story and being a part of the work that you're doing. Below
Sean?
that, oh yes.
Where is that? We can't see it on the screen.
Yes, you can.
Where's that below part?
It's right below the sharing buttons. It's just a text box.
Can you? Okay, we just can't see it.
You just can't see it because the screen isn't big enough.
Sean, this is Carol Walker. Can you hear me? Can you make the screen? Can you make the screen? Can you reduce the size of what you're showing so we can see more of it?
What I can do here is I will bring us onto the live site. So I generally, sometimes this can be a bit slow and laggy, but I will bring you onto the site. Someone is sharing.
I did something. I don't know what I did.
You are, Carol, you're trying to take over my webinar. What's going on here?
Oh,
I
clicked. How can I?
Yeah,
do better?
I'm going to stop your screen share. But thank you for volunteering for that. All right, so this is the current homepage. I'm going to go to this project here. This is a project by our church in Raleigh. They're trying to raise money to register 15,000 new voters in North Carolina, which is a great project. So as you can see, there's their image, there's their thermometer area, the fun button in blue, and then you see right here is the text. So this is their pitch. I love that they start the problem that we're addressing. It tells me exactly that they're doing something. I would love to see more images in this project. I would love to see less text walls and more bullets. You know, they're doing a pretty good job. And so what that tells you is that you don't have to be perfect to crowdfund well. So getting it out there is the biggest part of it. So as you scroll down the project page, you get to this section, which is our criteria for who gets to be on the site. And it comes down to two questions. And the first question is, how does your project claim Unitarian Universalism? And basically what that question is trying to get at is, how is your project Unitarian Universalist? And you can answer this question in a lot of ways. Individual UUs who are doing justice projects talk about the connection to their principles and their rooting in our faith. Projects that are related to congregations talk about their connections to those congregations. Basically, this is a question of like, how does your project, how when I look at your project, does it seem Unitarian Universalist? The second question is, how is your project claimed by Unitarian Universalism? And that's more looking for, who is the UU connection to your project? Is it an individual? Is it a congregation? Is it an organization? So for example, if an interfaith justice group posted a project on FAITHIFY and they didn't tell me that one of their partner organizations was the Unitarian Universalist congregation, I could totally see how it was in line with UU values, but I needed to see that there was a connection to a group of people that would say, yeah, we are Unitarian Universalists and this is a project that we're a part of. So other than those two criteria, other than claiming Unitarian Universalism, so saying we are Unitarian Universalists doing this, doesn't mean that we're the only ones doing it, but we are, you know, a part of it, and that other Unitarian Universalists say, yeah, those people are a part of us. Those are the only criteria that we really put on projects. Other than, and this is the caveat, the projects need to sort of make sense to me. And that is a subjective thing, but I've only ever turned down one project. But basically that means that I want, when I read your project, to understand what it is and understand what you're asking people to donate to. So it needs to have a sense of coherence that would allow the average person, when they read it, to understand and feel comfortable donating to it. I'm not judging whether or not I think it's a good idea. I'm just judging, oh yeah, I get it. I get that they're asking people to do this or that. One of the things that we count in that is if you're raising money for another organization, so let's say you're doing a charity event for another organization and you want to use FAITHIFY as your platform, which is totally great. We had a congregation in Connecticut use FAITHIFY to raise money at an immigrant refugee concert that they had at their church. Totally awesome. One of the things that we make sure is that we know that you have some sort of connection to the organization that you're raising money for, and that they know that you're raising money for them, just because we want to make sure that you're kind of being honest, that you're saying we're raising money for these people, and that they know that. So in the endorsement section, in the project partner section, which we'll get to in a second, we just want to see that there's a connection between those two, you and that organization. Purely for transparency for donors. So those are our criteria. Any questions about the claim and be claimed by and the clarity?
So this FAITHIFY is mostly for short-term projects, quickly funded and move on. We want to build a church in 10 years, so let's start a fundraising effort.
Yeah, we have not yet been used for kind of a capital campaign in terms of that longer process because of the short-term nature of the funding. But I would say that I think if you were to take a discrete part of a long-term project, a specific aspect, maybe related to accessibility or a specific feature of kind of a building project, that could be definitely something that could be brought onto FAITHIFY. We had a very successful project in New York, raise about $10,000 to help renovate and make accessible their historic sanctuary. So yeah, we haven't seen huge capital expenses on FAITHIFY, and I'm seeing I have some questions. All right. What is the largest amount that's been successfully raised on FAITHIFY? So far, it's a bit of $15,000 has been raised on FAITHIFY by one campaign, and that was in a 60-day period of time. I believe that was our that was the College of Social Justice's Growing Climate Activists project that was launched last year. In fact, Bill McKibben tweeted a link to FAITHIFY and asked his supporters to donate, and it crashed our site, which was really embarrassing. But it was pretty cool to see that 10,000 people tried to get on our site to donate because of Bill McKibben.
Can you repeat the dollar amount? You got bleeped out when you said it.
Yeah, $16,000 was raised by the College of Social Justice. So I'm going to share my screen again and just kind of move down. So after the claim and claimed by questions, there's a section for endorsements. So if there are people who think your project is awesome, if you think your project is awesome, totally put up some quotes there to kind of showcase to people that this is something that other people are engaged in. Crowdfunding is really all about leveraging other people's interest in your project to get other people interested in your project. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. So they have some endorsements from their partner organizations and other people they're working with. And then there's the section down here which asks for project partners. Who are you working with, if anyone? What's your relationship with them? And is there a partner congregation? Those fields aren't filled out by everyone. Then you can leave some comments. At the bottom, you see a list of donors with their names and their amounts and their pictures if they're members of our site. Some of them are anonymous. You get that choice when you're making a donation on FAITHIFY. So that's the basic kind of anatomy of a FAITHIFY campaign. A few things that I'll get to, and then I'll break a little bit for any questions we have. So FAITHIFY uses AllorNothing funding, which basically means that if you don't raise your goal, you don't have pledges that equal your goal amount, you don't get any of your money. And so I'll back up and explain the mechanics of that. So when a person makes a pledge on FAITHIFY, the money is not taken out of their account until the campaign ends, and the pledges of the campaign equal or exceed the goal that you set, which basically means that if you don't raise your goal, you don't get any money and no one is charged. The reason why we have AllorNothing funding, and it might seem a bit cruel to some people at first glance, but we like it for two reasons. The first reason is that it creates a sense of accountability. So if you need like $5,000 to do a project and you only raised $35, it's not really going to be useful for you to get to do your project. So we want people to pick goals that allow them to do something, but also that they can raise. So it creates a relationship between the donor and the project owner that says, I'm able to do something with your money, and I won't be able to do it without your money. So please make a donation for us. The other thing is that a lot of crowdfunding sites that don't have the AllorNothing funding, they just lose a sense of urgency of their campaigns. So our friends at the Center for Progressive Renewal, which is a Christian ecumenical organization, launched a crowdfunding campaign. And I'm not in the business of slandering other crowdfunding campaigns. I'm not a crowdfunding FAITHIFY, supremacist. But what you see on their site, because you get to keep all that you raise, is that their campaigns are on there for a long time and don't generate a lot of interest or engagement. On a FAITHIFY campaign, there are two periods that are the most donated periods in the whole campaign. And this is as you launch and near the end. And that means And the reason that is because, you know, as you launch, there's a sense of excitement. Oh yeah, this is a really cool project. I want to be a part of it. And so there's kind of a flurry of people donating. And I suggest you like seed that pot a little bit to like get a few people to make donations to kind of get that momentum going. And then you enter the mid-campaign doldrum, which is people have kind of forgotten a little bit about your campaign. They've, you know, they don't see it on their Facebook anymore. It's not something that's on the front of their mind. And then at the end, we see a flurry of donations, either because you've reached kind of the 50% mark. And when you hit that 50% mark, people are like, oh, this is going to be a success. I want to be a part of that success. I'm going to make a donation. And if I don't do that in 4 days, it's not going to count. And of course, you as project owners should be reminding people of that, but that's another webinar. So those are the places in which you see the most donations. All right, there's some questions in the chat. Do funds go to you or the organization? Can you run a second campaign for the same thing? Great question. First, do funds go to you or the organization? So as the project owner, you specify which bank account the money goes to when you create an account. So it can go directly to the organization if you have their account and routing number, or it can go to you depending on what makes sense. So you pick that. So when you make a FAITHIFY campaign, when you hit post a project your first time, it asks you to create a WePay account, and that WePay account is our payment processor. So that's where the money is going to end up. We don't actually hold the money for very long. It goes directly to that payment processor. And after your campaign or before your campaign, you can input the account number and routing number of the bank account that you want the money to be given to you if you are successful. It usually takes about a week to process after the end of your campaign to getting your first installment. That's because there's a lot of anti-money laundering laws and processes that need to be in place. So if you're using FAITHIFY to launder money, shame on you, but it's slowing us down for everything. Andrew has a question. Are payments considered donations? Is there a min or max funding goal for the project? Does FAITHIFY take a percentage of payments to cover the fees? Ugh, you're just asking the questions for my next slide, Andrew. All right, so are payments considered donations? So I guess the implication for a donation in this question, I assume, is that you get a tax receipt. Is that correct? So we at FAITHIFY do not vouch for the tax status of any of our projects. Because we don't have any way and capacity to verify any of that. So we ask project owners that if your project can issue a tax receipt for their donations, and so that means that you have your tax deductible status, and that this project fits within that tax deductible section of your mandate, because I know sometimes you can be a charity and do something outside your tax deductible mandate. But if it fits those two criteria, we say, let people know on your FAITHIFY campaign that it'll be tax deductible, and then you'll get a list of donors that you can send out receipts to according to your general practices. So we don't vouch for it, but if you can do it, please tell people about it. I know it's a great incentive. There is no min or max funding goal for any project. I would love to see a bunch of projects under $100 because I think there's a lot of cool things that we can do with a little amount of money, but the average project is around $5,000, and the average successful project is around $5,000 as well. Does FAITHIFY take a percentage for payment fees or other costs? Yes, and no. So every donation on FAITHIFY is subject to a 2.9% charge plus 30 cents. And that goes directly to WePay, a long day, friends. Our benevolent payment processor. I like to think that they take that 30 cents and get a gumball, but I doubt that is the case. So we don't actually take a cut at all. FAITHIFY is free to use for our users. We try to keep the costs down for you, but we do live in the digital world in which these online infrastructures take money. And so that is the cost that the donors do take on when they make a donation. Yeah, so you don't actually have to. So when a person makes a donation for $25, they're told that there will be a 2.9% addition plus 30 cents onto their donation, and that gets deducted from WePay and sent to your bank account.
Could you quickly explain the AllorNothing funding again? I didn't quite catch where the money ends up if we don't make our goal.
Yeah, totally. So when a person pledges on FAITHIFY, so they go to your site, they hit fund, they type in their amount, they type in all of their information. The site basically goes in and verifies that this is a correct credit card and it can make a donation like this, but it doesn't actually charge them. So it only charges them when the sum total of pledges that have been made for the amounts that donors have intended is equal to or beyond the goal amount that you set. And once that goal amount is met or exceeded, at the end of the campaign, our payment processor goes through and charges everyone who has made a donation. Got it? Great. One of the things that happens, which is unfortunate, and I love to tell people in advance, is that some people's credit cards expire in between them making a pledge and you collecting it. Some people's, and this happened to me, and I was really embarrassed about it because I should have been on top of this. My credit card got exposed to fraud, and they sent me a new card, and I was funding my friend's FAITHIFY project, and she was like, "Sean, you didn't pay me." And so if your credit card is compromised or your credit card company thought that this was a fraudulent transaction, it will block it. The good news is that that's a real small fraction of all of our transactions, usually between like 3 and maybe like at the lowest end at 0, it can be up to like 3% of the transactions get blocked for whatever these reasons. Great thing is that you as a project owner will get a list of all the transactions that went through and the ones that didn't, so that you can reach out to those donors and ask them to fulfill their donations in another way. Hopefully, we're in the process of creating a new upgrade to the site. Hopefully, there'll be a more smooth process in which if that happens, they'll get an email, they'll update their payment information, and you won't have to do anything, but we're not there yet. We really hope to be there. Betty asks, how do you collect from the donor? I'm not totally sure I understand that question, Betty. If you want to jump on with your voice and let me know what you intend by that, or even in the chat, I'd be happy to.
How do I turn it on?
We hear you.
Oh, okay. I was thinking like when pledges are made in congregations that, you actually cut off a certain amount that you figure you're not going to get. Like 10% of those people make pledges, but by the end of the year, you don't have like 10% of them or 20% of them that and you budget for that.
Right, that kind of drop-off amount.
Right, and so I guess my question is there a drop-off amount here too, and is there a way to figure that? So like if you needed $500, you would actually ask for $575 or something.
Yeah, I haven't run that data, and that would be something that maybe I'll go and do in the next few weeks to see kind of the average drop-off that happens in a project. What I do know from working with a few projects who had kind of who were faced with, most of our projects are fine, so it's some of our projects that are. So the projects that I have been working with, they have been really really heartened to see that most of the donors are completely great with making good on their donation, and a lot of them will just send a check. Yeah, there's different.
But Sean.
Yeah.
Sean, I think it sounds like the clarification is that when you pledge when you're funding, you're giving the site your credit card number. So it's not like what Betty was saying where you're promising to pay, because you're promising and giving your credit card. Then when the goal of the project is met, then your credit card is charged.
Yes.
So it's not the same thing as pledging during the church year.
Yes, that is very true.
So that's a safety measure, really.
Yeah. What I was trying to get at, and to clarify that, just again, that kind of drop off is really just for credit cards that get declined for whatever reason. And I just want to say that happens. You'll get the list and be able to ask for those donations.
Oh, okay.
All right.
This is Cheryl Walker. I don't know exactly how to comment on the chat since I'm on the phone, but I would say something like that happened to me. I think I got a new credit card between the time that I pledged to a FAITHIFY project and the time the money was collected. And believe me, the people tracked me down. I ended up sending a check or doing something or replacing the credit card with another one. So I don't think you need worry. They have the information to track you down.
I mean, you have all the incentive in the world to do it. They want to donate to you, so you should go out and provide them that opportunity. I want to show just a few more slides before we kind of wrap up and hear a little bit more about what your guys' planning and any last questions that you have. All right. All right, so I just wanted to come back again to this kind of snapshot of the FAITHIFY campaign page and just highlight three things that I want all project owners to think about. The first is, what is a manageable goal for you to raise? My heart breaks every time I see a project fail on our site, and they usually fail for two reasons, or one of two reasons. The first reason is that they didn't activate their networks in an effective way to raise awareness and ask people to donate. That's the first thing. Some of our projects don't even get any donations, and that just tells me that you didn't tell people about it, because I'm sure at least someone will donate, even if it is your mother, and I am counting on my own mother to donate to my FAITHIFY campaign when it launches. So the second is to have some solid visuals. Visuals really bring to life your project in a different way. And I also think that they're a really great resource for when you're sharing on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, even through emails. Having a really great visual, and I love this visual, voting on the side of love, it connects to something that that we all are kind of a part of, with the Standing on the Side of Love campaign. It tells me that we're defending democracy in North Carolina. I'm in favor of democracy. I'm also Canadian, so that's why I scheduled a webinar on Super Tuesday. Visuals are great. So think about visuals because they are really compelling, and they can be more compelling than just a block of text. The third thing is having a compelling narrative. The story, the pitch that you make for your FAITHIFY campaign really does make the difference between someone visiting the site and someone making a pledge on the site. So really thinking about what's going to be effective, who are the people that you're trying to target, and what is going to move them towards a donation, and putting that there. This isn't a grant proposal. You're not writing for a group of technical experts in your area. You are writing for your friends, your family, people in your network, and you're writing for the sole purpose of inviting them to be a part of this beautiful project that you're a part of. That's what you're doing. Do not use this area to explain the technical aspects of your project. That will be wasted on 98% of people. What you need to do is tell them why you're doing this, why they should be a part of it. I think I might have had a question. Chat. Yes, you can. This featured image can be a video. So this project doesn't have a video, but if you want to have a video, those are also really effective. And that's kind of Standing on the Side of Love. Picture is replaced with a video. People click, they watch it. It's great. Also great for sharing. So before we kind of wrap up, take any more questions, I want to point you to a few resources that we're developing here at FAITHIFY. And the first is FAITHIFY University. So this is in beta right now, but because you guys are on the webinar, I wanted you guys to have a sneak peek at it. So this is going to be the repository for all of our resources about running a FAITHIFY campaign. So if you go to faithify.org/faithify-university, and I'll send you this link when I send you the recording of this video. When you go to that site, it's going to bring you to a page that looks like this. And this is our online course about crowdfunding. So it's everything you need to know to launch your own crowdfunding campaign on faithify.org. That's you. Great. We're at the right place. If you hit enroll, put in your information, it's going to bring you to our curriculum. Now, our curriculum right now, I'm going to be honest, it's a little bare bones because I'm still developing it, but I still think it's useful. So right now, we just have basically one section, and that is a collection of 4 different videos that talk about what you should do before you launch your campaign. And so it walks you through mapping your networks, picking a goal, crafting your pitch, and getting the word out, and points you to other resources. I will tell you, these are not the silver bullet. There is nothing I can tell you that will make it 100% easy. There's nothing I can tell you that's a secret of crowdfunding, although you can probably sign up online for millions of courses and pay lots of money that'll give you the secret of fundraising. But these are some resources that kind of help you start. And over the next month and a half, I'm going to be building out this resource set to include more, so you can check back from time to time. All right, stop the share. Andrew asks, for an institution like a congregation or a similarly sized organization, what is the incentive to use Faithify over its regular internal fundraising efforts? When is it best to use Faithify, and when is it better to do what you've already done? It's a great question. I think there are kind of 2 times that I would say that it would be, well, yeah, there's 2 times that I can think off the cuff that would be really great for a congregation to consider crowdfunding. The first would be if there's a project that is something that would appeal to more than just members of your congregation. So this is something maybe to do with your outreach work or your partnership work, or something that members and friends and family members would all find a reason to donate to. So that would kind of be one set of things. The other set of things would be, I'm losing my train of thought. Right, that's one. The second would be, for a very discrete project. So that urgency that crowdfunding creates, I think lends itself really well to a very discrete project. There's a Faithify campaign in the works right now for a sign for a church. And it has a really compelling story to it. When the person pitched it to me, I was like, okay, it's a sign. Tell me why I should donate to a sign. And there was a really powerful story to it. And one of the trends that we're seeing in congregational life is a generational hesitancy to donate to institutions carte blanche in terms of kind of pledging trends. And so this kind of project-specific donation practice that crowdfunding forces you to do to be effective, I think is more of what we're going to see upcoming generations in our congregations gravitate towards, because they're showing direct impact for your donations. So those are the 2 areas that I would say use Faithify. I wouldn't suggest, I think it would be curious to put your crowdfunding, your pledge drive on Faithify, but I haven't met a congregation that's willing to risk that with me. But if you are that congregation, let me know. All right. Any other questions or comments or thoughts that you have about Faithify after you've just listened to me ramble for 51 and a half minutes?
Thank you. Let's see. It says, or one of my questions is, you stated you need to consider how much time you will need to prepare your network. The 65 member, what
So my internet just did a little bit of a hiccup. So I don't think I caught that whole question.
Oh, okay. My question is, you talked about how that we need to be attentive to preparing our network.
Mm-hmm.
What composes a network?
Right, yeah. So a network is basically all the people that you would think that you have an easy or decently accessible way of connecting to. So these are people that you would see every day as you engage with whatever project or organization you're a part of. They're the people that support that organization already, and they're the friends and family of people who are connected to those people. So it's kind of basically, if you draw one of those like flow charts of like your project, it's like, who are the people that are engaged in the project? Who are the people that might want to be a part of that project? Kind of that whole vast array of people. And so I think what I was saying regarding like how prepared your network is. So for example, if there was a project that was really compelling in terms of its story. Let's say this is responding for a specific refugee family that was coming over. That sort of story, you wouldn't need to do a lot of prep in your network because it really pulls at people's heartstrings and would be something that they want to be a part of. That's a really easy project to crowdfund. Something like the sign might be a little bit harder to crowdfund. And so it's really assessing how likely are people already to give to the project and kind of tailoring the amount of engagement that you do beforehand or to let them know about the project.
Okay, and so is an acceptable way to contact one's Facebook Facebook friends?
I think connecting to your
and
Facebook
ask
friends
them, right?
is a great way of getting the word out. Everyone that you're connected to on social media, Facebook, Twitter, they're possible people who might support your project. There's a really beautiful
Okay,
case. Go ahead.
Oh, so then it is they, however, must take the initiative to, on a certain day, go to FAITHIFY.
Right. You have to let them know when your campaign is, live on the site, so that they will go to the web page and make the donation. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else have questions or comments? If not, I will put my email address in the chat. It's Sean@FAITHIFY, hopefully I spelled that right, workforthem.org. I suggest that you reach out to me if you have any questions or thoughts you wanted to have kind of someone to bounce some ideas off of. I don't do kind of extensive coaching with projects because there wouldn't be time, but I'm really happy to be a second set of eyes if you have a question about what you're doing. If you're like, are we in the ballpark of reality? Totally cool to give you a reality check in terms of what you're doing. And also really open to pointing you to resources that will help you think about writing your campaign, activating your networks, or just to answer any questions you have regarding FAITHIFY as a platform. So we really hope to be accessible and open to you. And we really hope to see your projects on our site soon. So please reach out if you have any questions. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
It's Sean, S-E-A-N.
SEAN@faithify.org.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.